Hello everybody. So, welcome to the channel, welcome back to the channel. And if you are new here, perhaps new to this entire subject, decorating your home, I do hope that these videos will amuse you at the very least, but also I hope that they'll help you to see what types of furniture from the past are really most valuable and why. But anyway, in any case, today we have a very unusual and very rare 200-year-old period piece here, made by one of the most celebrated master furniture makers in French history. Now this is a museum-quality boat bed in mahogany, or a sleigh bed as it is often called, perhaps in line with this shape, evoking transportation into the world of sleep. And now I hope that didn't blow your mind as much as it blew mine when I connected those dots. It took me a year of owning this piece to figure that out. But we do see how within the art of period furniture, we're not only dealing with an art that is technically excellent in terms of the quality of the execution here, but there are at least a few layers, however shallow, of intellectual depth going on here. Just in essence, it's something that very much differs from much of what we ambiguously qualify as antiques. So the maker of this piece was Jacob-Desmalter, who made, among other things, Napoleon's thrones, as well as this bed for the Empress Josephine, which is now in the Malmaison Museum. So the maker is from a lineage of really the most celebrated master furniture makers in France, who furnished Marie Antoinette, who furnished all the courts of Europe, who furnished Napoleon, the Jacob family, the Jacob family. And we're going to encounter many of their works today from different members of this family in major museums worldwide, such as the Louvre. And just so we know that Jacob furniture is very relevant still today in popular culture, the set of Downton Abbey, Highclere Castle, is known for having a collection of early 19th century Jacob furniture to the tune of this bed in terms of this mahogany early 19th century variety. And so if we move down and look beneath this rosace, we can see the maker's mark hiding just below here under the central traverse. Now this rare stamp is very discreet, but that is a logical place for it, even if it did take me forever to find it. You know, as the piece is fine enough to be attributed to one of the top names of the period, but these pieces, even ones by Jacob, were not often signed. And so to begin, we could really stop at appreciating a piece like this just as a standalone excellent item. But I think it's important that we remember that works of decorative art, period pieces of this exceptional variety, were originally part and parcel of mathematically designed interiors, which today would pretty much defy the imagination. A bed like this would have probably been shrouded in yards and yards of elaborate curtains hanging from some canopy. And you know, it might have been nestled into some sort of an alcove, perhaps it was on some sort of a platform, but in general we see that this really would have been part of a much grander decor. Now the front of the bed on these 19th century day beds, boat beds that had an important decorative role back then, the front is referred to as the positive side. It is decorated, and if we roll the bed out from the wall, which I have already done, we notice that the back of the bed is the negative side. It is finished here, nevertheless, on this high quality example of such a bed, with some beautifully red mahogany. However, it is the negative, technically unfinished side of the bed for use up against the wall. Now, the piece was easy enough to slide out from the wall because it is on rollers, original rollers, mind you, which appear to be in wood and which appear to be sort of rudimentary in the way that they were fastened to the feet. But that's normal for a piece back in the day when they would leave the hidden parts of the piece somewhat rough, because it wasn't worth the trouble to finish that which would never have been seen, especially in this day when machines were not around to help. Okay, so the determinants of quality on an early 19th century period piece of this variety in mahogany and gilded bronze, those determinants are first going to be the quality and the color of the mahogany, which here we really see is exceptional. It's exactly what we would expect on a Jacob signed bed. And then we're going to ask, what is the finesse of the moldings that there may be that we might encounter on such a piece? And then we're going to take a look at the gilded bronze. Is it finely executed? Is it finely chiseled? What's the quality of the gilding here? Do we see two different tones of gilding, typically a matte gilding and then a high luster one? Here we do. That adds a lot of contrast, a lot of richness to this bronze, on top of the fact that it is all artfully designed and then very precisely cast and chiseled. Of course, this being a piece which is truly, by one of the biggest names in furniture history, we really see exactly what we're looking for in this type of early 19th century mahogany gilded bronze furniture. There's not a lot going on here. It's just the mahogany, just the gilded bronze. So we take a look at the quality of those two things, and we're able to tell whether or not the piece is artful or not. Now, looking at a Jacob-signed piece generally is going to set the bar probably too high for this type of furniture in general, if not all antiques. But that's why I wanted to share this piece with you. The lighting today on set is a little bit too ominous, so let's just screech on back. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, doesn't it? And so, yes, we are struck by the facade of this piece with these uniquely circa 1820 bronze designs down here. We really rarely see bronzes like that. That's a very unique, special bronze design. These frames here, these thin fillets that scroll together here and then deploy this wonderful palmette. We're going to see that on a few pieces which are conserved in the Paris Museum of Decorative Arts, the northwest wing of the Louvre. They are now in storage. They used to be on display. But we see that the tops of the drawers of these pieces have the same circa 1820, 1825 bronze design. But anyway, we are struck by all of this. But why don't we go ahead and look at the sides of this bed, which display really some of the most richly read, beautifully grained, and well-preserved mahogany that I have ever seen on a piece of this age. There doesn't appear to be a single crack, as this bed was no doubt well taken care of. And what I love about looking at the sides of the piece is how there is no ornamentation, but the sheer quality and the beauty of this wood manages to be ornate. All right, so to briefly cover the style here, we notice the Napoleonic Empire's use of gilded bronze and mahogany on this piece, but see an Empire period bed from, let's say, 10 years earlier, like this one here in the Musée Marmottan in Paris. It's going to have a much more rigid design. And so this style is called the Restoration style for the aesthetic movement that corresponds to the restoration of the Bourbon monarchy after the fall of Napoleon. So we see the continued use of these Napoleonic materials, but what I love about the Restoration style is that we continue this robust use of loud mahogany and gilded bronze, but we mix that stark Empire neoclassicism with sort of the graceful curves, the elegance of the old regime. Although we see here on a bed like this that there is a little bit of Empire design that's retained here from the previous period with these cubic feet. Nevertheless, the sharp angles where the cubic feet join with the front traverse, those angles have been softened with the addition of this solid mahogany console here that's been sculpted with a scroll and adorned with little flowers. Now, the shape of the console, harmoniously, we should add, really responds to the way that the headrests descend into the rail from above, just as this rises up into the rail from below. So now, even if Restoration period furniture is not the most famous in French history, I will add that this type of furniture from this period was ordered for the White House in 1817. And so even if that furniture was in gilded wood, nevertheless, it is from the period of this bed, and perhaps no other anecdote better attests to the universality of Parisian Restoration furniture, not Restoration hardware at all. But no other anecdote really reminds us of the importance of this style in art history, even if it is not the first thing that comes to mind when we think of the French decorative arts. Now finally, as per tradition, I went ahead and removed this mattress, custom-made mattress, because this size of bed does not exist anymore, so that you could take a look at the hidden parts of this piece, especially some of the master furniture makers among us, but also for anyone to just look at the technical excellence of how this was made, since that is just as impressive as the art history. Now, we do see a watermark down here, discoloration where there was a label, perhaps from JacobDesmalter's workshop, but I fear the worst, ladies and gentlemen, that this label was in fact the inventory label of whoever this was first delivered to, and it is super annoying to have lost that. But anyway, we see inside the oxidized frame here that we're dealing with oak underneath all of the beautiful mahogany of the exterior. And then we also see the screws here, these typical large screws of beds from the period with these porous spherical heads so that you can use a bar inside of those holes to tighten or loosen them. Practically all beds from the early 19th century come together with these screws. Although not all boat beds from the early 19th century are as exceptional, are as beautiful as this one. So everyone, I thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video, if you would like to support the endeavor of creating an online period furniture library of the most compelling pieces that I encounter, raising awareness of decorative art, and helping people discern between pieces like this and everything else that we ambiguously qualify as an antique, please subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated. Thank you.